Hello, everyone. My name is Alex Grant. Welcome to Immigration Update Desk. A lot has happened in U.S. immigration over the past week, and for many immigrants and families, the headlines can feel overwhelming at first glance. A notification pops up, a social post gets shared thousands of times, or a friend forwards a dramatic claim, and instantly it feels as if everything has changed overnight. When we slow down and look carefully at what is actually being reported, checking the wording in official announcements, comparing multiple reliable sources, and separating speculation from confirmed action, we find developments that add meaningful context and, in several places, genuine good news for people navigating the system in January 2026. In this video, I'm breaking down the positive updates, hopeful signals, and practical information that can help you make smarter decisions about your status, your work plans, and your family immigration goals. And I'll translate each headline into simple next steps you can take this week, so the news serves you instead of stressing you. If you find this helpful, please subscribe, tap the bell, and like the video so updates reach your phone right away, because timing matters more than ever. The earlier you hear accurate information, the better you can plan. Now let's get into it by zooming out on the national conversation and then zooming back in on how these shifts touch your day to day. When immigration dominates the national conversation, coverage is often driven by enforcement stories or political debate. That focus is understandable because conflict is newsy, but it can distort our sense of what's happening across the entire system. One of the most encouraging developments reported this week is a steady shift in how Americans view immigration overall. Multiple national polls show that compared with prior years, concern about immigration has eased. At the same time, a record or near-record share of Americans now say immigration is a positive force for the country, or that immigrants strengthen the nation through their work, families, and contributions. Public opinion does not rewrite statutes overnight, but it matters deeply over time. Legislative windows open and close based on what voters care about. Court decisions often consider practical realities, and agency priorities tend to follow broader sentiment, especially around resource allocation, communication, and outreach. When more Americans see immigrants as contributors rather than as a problem to be solved, it creates room for more balanced, nuanced policy discussions and gives cover for leaders to support improvements that make processes clearer and more efficient. For immigrants living in the United States today, working, studying, raising kids, paying taxes, this shift signals a climate that is gradually becoming more receptive rather than hostile. That change is subtle, and it will not eliminate backlogs tomorrow. Yet it can shape the tone of interactions at consulates and field offices, the design of pilot programs that test smarter workflows, and the appetite to clarify rules so families can follow them confidently. Moving from public mood to the timeline mechanics that affect actual cases, the January 2026 Visa Bulletin brought a mix of stability and forward movement. Remember what the bulletin does. It tells you when immigrant visa numbers are available for family-based and employment-based categories, which in turn governs when you can complete final steps like an immigrant visa interview abroad or adjustment of status in the United States. The bulletin has two charts for family and two for employment. Chart A, final action dates, which controls approvals and issuance, and Chart B, dates for filing, which sometimes allows earlier document submission or, inside the U.S., earlier filing of adjustment when USCIS authorizes it for that month. This month, several categories held steady while select groups nudged forward. For applicants with approved petitions, especially those watching the calendar from the almost current zone, even a few weeks of movement can change planning. You can request police certificates that take time, schedule medical exams without risking expiration, and prepare financial documents that sponsors must provide. Small steps matter because they signal that the system is advancing rather than frozen. Each tiny advancement shortens a queue for thousands of people, And over a few bulletins, those tiny steps add up to interviews scheduled and green cards approved. Alongside the bulletin, the Department of State continues to publish clarifications on visa processing. These aren't flashy press conferences, but they're incredibly useful. Updated notes in the Foreign Affairs Manual, country-specific reciprocity schedules that explain which civil documents are acceptable, reminders about photo standards and document upload requirements in the CEAC portal, and explanations of how consular posts are prioritizing certain case types. Clearer guidance reduces guesswork. It helps families avoid avoidable checklist requests from the National Visa Center. It prevents interview day surprises, and it cuts rework that slows everyone down. If you're gathering documents, clarity is good news because it tells you exactly what will be accepted, how to label it, and when to bring the original to the interview. While we're on clarity, let's directly address a rumor that caused anxiety this week. Posts circulated widely claiming that the United States had completely suspended immigrant visas for dozens of countries, implying a blanket ban that would invalidate years of waiting. Here's the reality. While certain internal reviews and procedural pauses have been reported at some consulates, often due to staffing shifts, security updates, building renovations, or local conditions, there has been no confirmed binding legal action published that eliminates immigrant visa eligibility across those countries. That distinction is critical, and the wording matters. A review, a pause in scheduling, or a document-specific hold is not the same as a legal prohibition. If the U.S. government imposes a broad restriction, you would see it in formal channels: a presidential proclamation, a Department of State cable reflected in the Foreign Affairs Manual, or a Federal Register notice. You can also verify changes by watching the State Department's Public Visa Office Q&As and the monthly bulletin notes. For immigrants and families already in process, those with I-130 or I-140 approvals, those who are documentarily qualified at NVC, those with priority dates inching forward, your petitions, applications, and priority dates still matter. Legal pathways remain intact even when processing in a particular place becomes slower or more cautious for a time. If your local post is experiencing delays, there are tactical responses. Keep civil documents up to date so you can accept a short notice interview, monitor your CEAC email for checklist messages, and if relocation is possible and allowed under State Department rules, review whether a transfer to a neighboring post is appropriate. Not everyone can or should move posts, but you should at least know the option and the standards for requesting a transfer. Another quiet but meaningful source of good news is coming from the immigration, legal, and professional community. Attorneys, advocacy groups, and policy analysts continue to release updated checklists and explainers that respond to common confusion points. Clearer explanations around public charge considerations so families know what counts as income and assets, reminders about consistency across forms to avoid inadvertent misrepresentation, guidance on preparing for 2026 interviews with a focus on quality over quantity of evidence, and tips for responding to requests for evidence with concise, targeted documentation. It rarely makes headlines, but better information leads to stronger filings, fewer mistakes, and fewer unnecessary delays. A carefully labeled packet that answers exactly what an officer asks saves everyone time, and time is the currency of immigration. If you are prepping right now, the advantage goes to the organized. Choose one spelling for names with diacritics and use it consistently. Build a simple timeline of addresses and employment that you can replicate across forms, and keep digital copies of everything so you can re-upload or reprint at a moment's notice. Taken together, these developments paint a more balanced picture than doom-scrolling suggests. Public sentiment is shifting in a supportive direction, which can open policy windows and lower the temperature of the debate. Visa availability continues to be published and, in some lines, continues to inch forward. Legal immigration pathways remain in place. Forms are being accepted, interviews are being scheduled, and cases are being approved every day across the country. Procedural guidance from state and USCIS is clearer in several areas, helping applicants move forward with fewer surprises. None of this means immigration has suddenly become easy. Challenges remain, backlogs exist, and some consulates still operate with limited capacity. But stepping back from the noise, this week includes signals that are genuinely encouraging for immigrants who do the basics well. Stay informed, follow the rules, and plan carefully. If you are filing on time, tracking priority dates, attending interviews, and responding precisely to requests, the practical takeaway is important. The system is still functioning, still publishing official guidance, and still moving cases forward. Even if progress feels slow, avoiding rumor-driven panic and relying on verified updates can make a real difference in how smoothly your case moves. In a system where uncertainty often dominates, clarity itself is progress, and this week provided more clarity than many expected. Because information only helps when it turns into action, let's translate these signals into concrete steps you can take right now without hiring a consultant. If your case depends on the visa bulletin, look up your category and country of chargeability. Identify whether Chart A or Chart B controls your next step, and set a monthly reminder to check the new bulletin the day it posts. If you are within a few months of current, request police certificates that take time in your country. Make sure passports won't expire before your interview, and gather civil documents with correct translations so you can respond as soon as NVC asks. If you are adjusting status in the U.S., check whether USCIS is allowing Chart B for your category this month and verify that your address is current, so notices reach you. If you expect an interview, consider scheduling your medical exam strategically so it doesn't expire before the appointment. If your family is at NVC, log into CEAC and make sure every document is legible, correctly labeled, and under file size limits. When the system rejects a document for being unclear or incomplete, it slows the line for everyone, including you, so invest the extra hour to get it right. If your post is experiencing delays, talk honestly with your family about travel flexibility and backup plans. When an interview is offered, respond quickly and follow the instructions exactly. The fastest way to slow your case is to bring the wrong documents to the right appointment. If you are worried about rumors, commit to a simple verification routine before you let a story change your decisions. Check the State Department's website, the monthly bulletin, and USCIS alerts. Look for a source document like a proclamation or a Federal Register notice, and be cautious of screenshots without links or posts that summarize without quoting. If you must act on uncertain news because your timeline is tight, act in a way that helps you regardless of whether the rumor is true. Organize your documents, renew a passport, request a police certificate, schedule a medical for a date you can reschedule if needed. Build momentum that isn't wasted. For families worried about costs, plan your spending over the next few months rather than waiting for one massive week of fees. Save for government fees first, then medical exams and translations, then travel. Consider adding a small buffer for mailing and photocopying because clean, organized packets are an investment that reduce back and forth. If you have children close to aging out under the Child Status Protection Act, set a meeting with a qualified professional to verify how CSPA applies to your case. Calculate your child's CSPA age, mark the 1-year seek to acquire timeline, and build a checklist so you can take action the moment your date is current. If you are sponsoring a relative, review your affidavit of support plans now. Verify household size, review your most recent tax transcripts, and, if needed, identify a joint sponsor early so there's no last-minute scramble. If you're nervous about interviews, rehearse clear, concise answers that match what you wrote on forms. Officers don't need dramatic stories. They need consistency and evidence. A short, calm explanation is more persuasive than a long, nervous one. If your case hits a delay, escalate politely and in order. Use published processing times to decide when you can submit a service request. Keep your receipt numbers and dates handy, and document each call or email. If you qualify for an expedite, assemble evidence that is specific and measurable, appointments, contracts, medical letters, rather than general statements about hardship. And if you need moral support, build a small circle of trusted people who will keep you grounded. Choose the friend who helps you read instructions, not the cousin who forwards every rumor. Before we close, I want to reiterate that good news in immigration doesn't always look like a new law or a sweeping announcement. Often it looks like clarity, clearer instructions, cleaner cues, modest forward movement, and a calmer public conversation that allows professionals to do their jobs and families to do their part. That is the kind of progress we saw this week, and it is the kind of progress that compounds when applicants prepare well. So take 1 hour after this video to do the highest impact tasks for your case, update your document checklist, confirm you're following the right chart in the bulletin, renew any expiring passports, organize translations, and set calendar reminders for the next bulletin and any known filing windows. That hour could save you weeks. That's all for this bulletin. Immigration Update Desk provides the essential visa information and procedures you need for your U.S. immigration journey. Our goal is to help you understand each stage, processing steps, application requirements, timelines, forms, fees, interviews, and the practical details that make the difference, so you can move forward with confidence. We will continue to cover U.S. visitor visas such as B1 and B2, work visas like L1A, L1B, and H1B, student visas, green cards, and immigrant categories including EB1, EB2, EB3, EB4, and EB5, as well as the full range of family-based immigrant visas. If you haven't already, please subscribe to Immigration Update Desk. Tap the bell so you get timely alerts, and share this video with someone who needs calm, verified updates rather than noise. Thank you for watching. I'm Alex Grant, and we'll see you in the next video where we'll break down the newest visa bulletin line by line, show you how to tell whether Chart A or Chart B applies to your case this month, and walk through a real-world document checklist that has helped thousands of families avoid delays.